People, welcome to Newspaper Breakdown. It is the 3rd of March, a slightly later one today because I completely forgot about doing it. I did all the writing, did all the research, forgot to fucking record it, so that's how it is. Few stories to get through. Hundreds of trafficked victims in the UK have gone missing in the UK after being referred to the government's scheme to protect them, which is nice. Good of us. Also, Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick admitted in January that since 2021, about 200 child asylum seekers have gone missing from hotels where they had been in the care of the Home Office and its contractors. 566 potential or confirmed victims of trafficking from the UK and other countries were categorised as missing between 2020 and 2022. This was after being referred to the National Referral Mechanism, which is designed to provide victims with safety and support. Didn't do a great job there. 258 victims went missing in 2022. The majority of children were Albanian boys, with adults being the majority of Vietnamese men. The Home Office sources have said that the numbers missing amount to a very small percentage of the 35,827 people referred to the NRM over that period. So do take that into account. It's important. We've had 35,500. It is a tiny percentage. The fact that there are any going missing is itself a concern, though, isn't it? Also, a lot of these children are going to be put into things like modern slavery. Modern slavery is one of those things that we have seemingly completely and utterly forgot about. There's lots of talk about how slavery is bad, how slavery is terrible, how we should never go back to slavery. Yet we've had modern slavery for years, and it still continues, and there isn't some massive fucking uproar over it, is there? Anyway, next story. Sir Stephen House, which is a former Deputy Commissioner and Acting Commissioner of the Met Police, has been referred to the Independent Police Watchdog over accusations that he described the bulk of rape complaints as regretful sex. The allegations, the alleged comments, were made public by Home Office advisor Professor Betsy Stanko, who conducted a review into the number of rape cases making it into court. House has, of course, denied these allegations. These allegations come days after a public inquiry heard undercover Met officers had deceived women into sexual relationships because of a culture of endemic sexism. Now, do not know if he said it. I wasn't there, so there's no way I can say for certain. But that particular thought process, that is endemic in society. The continual need to victim blame is everywhere in society, especially when it comes to women's safety. Yeah, it's, oh, you're not wearing the right thing, you went to this place, you did this, you've had sex before, all of these things. It's something that fundamentally does need to be changed. I haven't got the solution just yet. In a report by the International Development Select Committee, it says that as much as a third of the already heavily cut UK overseas aid budget was now being spent on housing refugees in the UK. They described the I know I've just stopped, but I'm trying to see what this fucking word is. They described the trend, that's it. My writing is fucking atrocious. Considering I have to read it, you'd think I'd do more to do it, wouldn't I? Nope. They described the trend as unsustainable and unprecedented. with the committee also finding that the UK aid spending per refugee had almost tripled, increasing from 6,700 in 2019 all the way up to 21,700 in 2021. The Select Committee said that it had been a political choice by the government to spend this much of the aid budget on refugees in the UK, and was not required to do so by international rules defining legitimate aid. The government has decided that with our overseas aid budget to keep it in England, to keep it in Britain, and not actually spend it on international aid. The committee has hit a brick wall in getting information from the government about precise current spending. One of the major reasons we are spending so much, which is more currently than any other OECD country, that averages £7,400 per person for refugees in their country, is due to the number of asylum seekers housed in contingency accommodation, which largely consists of hotels, and has increased from 2,600 to more than 37,000. The Home Office is a spiteful and costly and unworkable system. Is falling apart and is costing us tons of money. The reason everyone's complaining, my humbled opinion, is that the government want this. If they can continue to have the worst of our government, the far-right nut-jobby wankers, go along saying, look how much it's costing us, that will seep into your mind to say how much it's going, how much is it costing us, why are we spending this amount of money on refugees? Because the government has decided to make you hate them. That's it. Well, that's my opinion, anyway. It's my view. As a result, the UK bilateral aid spending in the least developed countries in 2021 decreased by decreased to £1.4 billion, about 12% of the aid budget, and a 50% decrease in the aid to LDCs. The aid budget is remarkably important. It helps a lot of people, and if you want to think of it in just a purely selfish term, it's very good for soft power. Especially if you have a look over in Africa, you see the amount of money that Russia and China are pumping into Africa. They're doing that for a reason, not because they care. It's because they know they can end up owning Africa. That's it. That's the reason for it. And if we're able to give more aid to the LDCs, least developed countries, help them grow, help them be self-sufficient. It should have fucking happened 100, 200 years ago. We should have worked together as a world, but we didn't do. Bigotry, racism, all of that stuff. Then these countries wouldn't need to bend over for the likes of Russia and China, sell all of their stuff, and actually do better as a progress as a country. The Progressive Economy Forum has calculated that the decade of austerity under Tory rule has resulted in more than £500 billion of lost public spending and a weaker economy. The report by the left of centre think tank said that between 2010 and 2019 period, if previous pledges and plans had been kept, public spending would have been £540 billion higher. So we can look forward to austerity 2.0 under Sunak and Hunt. Using figures from the Office of Budget Responsibility, the paper demonstrates that governments from 2010 could have maintained real term growth in public spending at 3%, and by accompanying spending increases to match tax rises, still have reduced the debt levels by 2019. The paper continues to say voters had been told austerity would result in faster growth by boosting confidence, but instead it has reduced the bargaining power of workers and contributed to the UK's low wage, low productivity economy. Britain's debt to GDP ratio in 2019 would have been 3% lower at about 70% had governments pursued a balanced budget expansion in which spending was maintained by tax increases. Another example of the fact that austerity was a choice made by the government, that because the economy, and we're the fifth, we're the sixth biggest economy in the world. You see the level of inequality, and you have to start to realise that being the sixth biggest economy in the world is only because of just how wide that fucking gap is. We have lots of very wealthy people and deprivation, and that shouldn't be, that anyone looking at that with an ounce of, it's not even looking at compassion. You can go back to greed again, just there with greed. It would be better for a society to not have anyone in deprivation, because they would spend more money, put more money into the economy. It would be better all round. That's why everyone complaining, I think you'll find that rich people pay like 60% of the income tax. Well, that's wrong. They shouldn't be. They earn the fucking money, and it's wrong that they earn that amount of money. They shouldn't be. Data from the Living Wage Foundation has suggested women have been hit hardest by the cost of living crisis, as women tend to earn less, with 500,000 more women in low paid are paid below the real living wage than men. More than 2 million women are paid below the real living wage, representing 14% of all working women, compared to 1.4 million men, which are 9%. Overall, 60% of all jobs that pay below the real living wage are held by women. Now, the real living wage is calculated annually by the foundation. Currently, it is £10.90 per hour across the UK, with it being £11.95 in London. It is higher than the national living wage, because the thing with the national living wage is it doesn't actually cover you to live. The charity found that women are more likely to be on 0-hour contracts, with 13% compared to 9% for men. Women are also less likely to be paid for a shift when it is cancelled. Just more inequality. Much more inequality. Two more stories. Fears are rising over the future of the London Stock Exchange after SoftBank rejected a London listing for Cambridge-based chip designer ARM, despite aggressive lobbying from three successive PMs. The Japanese group believed that a US listing would give it its best chance of recouping the $32 billion it spent to acquire ARM in 2016. ARM was put off by a rule that requires UK listed companies to disclose all related party transactions, potentially forcing it to report dealings with any of the companies that SoftBank also has a stake in. On Thursday, the £30 billion building materials giant CRH also announced plans to move its shares to the US, where it generates the bulk of its profits and expects to benefit from Biden's plans for infrastructure investment. Over the past 2 decades, the London Stock Exchange has struggled to attract the biggest tech companies, and over the past year has faced more challenges with listed groups being acquired. Interesting thing about this particular story is the fact that Arm, who was sold to the Japanese SoftBank in 2016, was one of the biggest companies in the UK. Absolute cutting edge. And around the time that Theresa May was getting on her nationalist bullshit about Britain is the best, we want British things for British jobs, and British was the same time that she signed off on SoftBank buying Arm, one of the true success stories of this country. There's all these nationalists and all this fucking Brexit bullshit, nothing to do with how good this country is. It's nothing to do with it. They are a detriment. Final story. On Thursday, 18 research bodies, including the Royal College of Chemistry, Wellcome, and the Russell Group of Research in Intensive Universities, issued a joint demand for London and Brussels to get Britain's readmission into Horizon swiftly over the line, finally ending the damaging impasse. However, Sunak is sceptical about the value of Britain's re-entry into the 95.5 billion euros Horizon Science Programme, the biggest research programme in the world. UK scientists believe Horizon is vital for research, investment and turning the UK into a science superpower. However, Sunak, who isn't a scientist, doesn't. The EU blocked the UK from entering last year over the past Brexit trade or the post-Brexit trade and Northern Ireland issues that we were having, and UK's threat to rewrite the exit deal. But now, like since Monday and the new deal, potential new deal, everything looks to have been settled. Just they don't want us to progress. People who support Brexit do not want a strong country. They don't. They want an insular country where they run everything. That's it. So I didn't feel this was the best one of these I've ever done. I'll be honest, it felt everywhere. But I don't redo these, so it's only do it once. That's it. I'll catch you Monday. Be fine.